Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is a Dreams Gadget tutorial. We're doing gameplay gear now. This is the first gadget from this section that we're doing, and that's checkpoint. This section is about the game mechanics, the things like scoreboards, level linking and the actual puppets. They're all in this section. But the first one is checkpoint. That's what it looks like. It's a little pin that you get on a map or something like that. Now, what this gadget does is it provides you with a respawn point. Now, what's a respawn point? Well, when your puppet dies, when your character dies, it runs out of health or it falls out of the scene, and it respawns, you get a new one. The position of where that will be will depend on whether you've got checkpoints or not. So we haven't got any checkpoints in this level. I've got my player here and I've just marked where I've placed him right at the beginning of the game. So if you rerun the game, you place your puppet down. I've just marked it. That's the respawn point, the default respawn point of my game. So if I was to play, I could run about, and if I fell to my death, it respawns on that particular spot. Now, what checkpoints do is allows you to define where the respawn point is going to be throughout your game. So, if your player has progressed through the game, you don't want him respawning right back at the beginning. You'll want to respawn him closer to the action where he left it. So you have respawn points. Now, these can be activated in various different ways. You can have a trigger zone. You could have an interactive object. Or they can be activated on timelines and things like that, so that at different times of the game the respawn point will change. So you could have random respawn points if you wanted. There's lots of types of programs that you can do, but I'm just going to show you the basics today. So I've put down some flags. All these are just some coloured flags, and they're going to act as our checkpoints. I've popped some lights above them as well, so we can see easily which one is active. Right, so now we need a checkpoint. So I'm going to grab a checkpoint and I'm going to go over to our flag and I'm just going to stamp that onto the pole. And if I open it up, you'll see we have 3 options and the second page, which is the zone. So this is the trigger zone, just like an ordinary trigger zone. So it's got one built in. So you don't necessarily need to have one, but I'll explain about trigger zones and checkpoints in a minute. But let's use this trigger zone as it is. I think that's an okay size and shape and what have you. We'll just... That's about right. I think we'll just leave that there. That's where the player needs to go, within the light. There we are. That's where he needs to go in order to activate our flag. And what we'll say is when the flag is active, we're going to turn on the light. So I have wired it up to the power on our light. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, but I should be all right for the rest of this video. So I power on our light when it's active, and that's it. That's all we need to do there. So we'll put another one on this checkpoint, and another one on this checkpoint, and we'll wire up their lights. So currently active wired to the power on our light, currently active wired to the power on our light. Now what will happen is when our player walks into a trigger zone of our checkpoint, it's going to activate the checkpoint. So let's have a look. So I walk over to the red one and it's turned that on. If I walk over to the green one, it's turned that one, and the red one's gone off. So you can only have one checkpoint active at any one time. That's active, and now the others are not. So if I was to die now, and it doesn't matter where I go, okay, whatever is active, that's where he's going to respawn. There we go. So it was the green flag this time. and now it's the blue flag. So you can see that's how a checkpoint would work. You've got one active at any one time. It doesn't matter how many you put down. If the player goes into the trigger zone, that makes that particular checkpoint active, and that's where he's going to respawn. So it's very simple. Now, the only problem with this is you may not actually want the trigger zone for setting off your respawn and the respawn point to be the same thing. If that's the case, then you have to change it slightly. So what we're going to do is we're going to move our checkpoint. There's our flag. We're going to say, we're going to say the player is going to respawn here. Just to add a little something so we know. I'm going to make a little cylinder-y thing like that. There we go. Let's just pop that back on the flag. Whoop. And just move this. Right, okay, so we're going to move where he's going to respawn to there, to our platform, our little pedestal. That's where I want him to respawn. I always have trouble with the 3D of these things. There we go, it's a bit better. There we go. That's about right. Now this gizmo is the direction in which he's going to be facing. So we'll have him facing into the centre of the game. There we go. That's the way I'm going to face, and that's where he's going to be. Now we need to add a trigger zone for setting off our checkpoint. So we're going to stamp that onto our pole. So there is the trigger zone of what we want to detect, and we're going to wire detected to activate me. So we've got a trigger zone. We've got a trigger zone here, and we've got a checkpoint that's going to spawn him here. So let's see. So I can stand on here, it doesn't do anything. But if I go into the trigger zone, it's activated my flag. I'll die, and hopefully he spawns on the podium. There we go. So you can change where the player is going to appear. If you don't want the trigger zone and where he appears to be the same place, you are going to need to add a trigger zone. It's a shame actually that they haven't designed this checkpoint so that the trigger zone and the respawn point are two separate things, but they haven't. It requires you to have these two gadgets, but there we go. Very simple. And that's it. That's it for the checkpoint. There isn't very much more to it. You can, of course, as you can see when we wired it in, activate me. You can activate these from various reasons. Like I say, you could have a button press, so the player activates a call to action, like press triangle when you get close to it or something like that, and that will activate rather than the trigger zone. So there's lots of ways around it. I could go on and do lots of different programs of fiddling about with checkpoints, but let me know in the comments what you would need, and I can work on it for you if you wish. But that's the basics for the checkpoint. It's a very simple gadget, and I hope you make really good use of it. Thank you for watching. Hope it was useful, and I'll catch you in your dreams.